Hello, this is your king from the underground speaking. Of course, from the Helios blog, live from my underground bunker somewhere in the west. Today, we have Mikhaila Peterson in a Piers Morgan Uncensored interview. Let's see how this one goes.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
His daughter starting.
Well, it's opened a lot of doors, I think, that wouldn't have been open to me. So that's one thing. It's extremely dramatic. It's somewhat stressful. Ever since he went viral in 2017, our lives have just been turned completely upside down. So I was reading an article earlier about how Jordan gets on TV and cries about being famous. And I used to look at celebrities and think, if they're complaining about fame, what are they complaining about? You have money and opportunity, like, stop it. But the amount of stress that also comes with that, I think, is hard to understand unless you experience it.
Had a huge impact on him, on your family, on you, everyone, right?
Yeah, it's been wild, but I can't complain about the opportunity. I mean, I've taken advantage of that as much as I can.
Well, you become a big star yourself. You know, when I tell people I'm interviewing you, young people are like, oh, wow, that's great. You know, you've got nearly 1 million subscribers to your YouTube channel. You're doing these huge numbers on social media. What is it about you? It's not just because you're Jordan's daughter. There's something else. What is it you think that's really grabbing people's attention? Well,
I hope that I'm telling the truth. I don't really care what people think of me. And I think my health story also influenced a lot of people because there's so many chronically ill people, and so I brought a lot of people into the personal aspect of that. And then I guess I'm a fairly disagreeable female, which I think is attractive to some people.
But I would find that quite agreeable.
I'm polite, and it depends. We might agree on a lot of things, so that might be it.
We probably agree with more than you think. Just for those who don't know your...
Yeah, okay, so we just started with the self-aggrandizing. Oh, I'm such a great and wonderful person, you know, look at my diet, and, you know, it's so cool and interesting, and yeah, okay. Like, anyway, I think that the diet thing is nonsense, but, you know, some people believe in this garbage, so, you know, she's making money off it, I guess. Anyway, I digress. Let's continue.
Your health story. Very quickly, tell me what happened.
I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis since I was 2. I was diagnosed when I was 7, and then my health just went downhill. So I was depressed. I had chronic fatigue. My skin was a mess. I was on like 8 medications, and I couldn't function. I couldn't get out of bed. And when I was 22, I decided the medical system wasn't helping me. I'd had my hip and ankle replaced. Like I'd had years of being on painkillers.
Oh my lord, I didn't know that. Jeez. Wow, that's kind of absurd. I had no idea she had a hip and ankle replaced. Those are going to be huge problems when she's older. Huge medical problems. That's crazy. And this is from rheumatoid arthritis. So that's inflammation of the joints, basically.
Killers and things. And so I took it into my own hands, and that was when I was 22 when I realized that if you have issues in your life, nobody other than you is going to fix them.
Right.
And I used to go to the medical.
That actually is true.
Community, because that's what I'd learned to get help, and that wasn't working for me. So I started to delve into diet. I went back to school for a biomedical degree, which I didn't end up finishing. I did a couple of years of that. And
what a surprise. Yeah, we already know that story. She went and got that degree, and then she got pregnant at 19. And so she had a hip and knee replacement before the age of 19 when she got pregnant. Can you believe that, guys? That's actually quite a shame. She's going to have huge problems when she's even in her 40s as a result of this.
And I started delving around in diet. So, like, long story short, I ended up only eating meat, which I think is also kind of what helped people start following me, because they're like, what's this weird all beef woman up to?
How long did you do that for?
I'm still on it. So
and you literally only
6 years.
You only eat meat still?
Yep.
Talk me through a day's diet then.
Strip loin steak. That's
so you wake up in the morning. What do you have for breakfast?
Strip loin.
What do you have for lunch?
Strip loin.
What do you have for dinner?
Sometimes strip loin in soup.
And dinner, same?
Yeah.
So you have 3.
So she just eats steak? What the? That's a little bit crazy. Okay, that's I mean, they don't talk about that as a legitimate diet. Where's she getting her? Okay. Cow's meat is rich in fat, so she's getting fat and protein. She's not eating any sugar, so she's basically on the keto diet if she's eating like that. If she's not eating any bread and so on. Interesting. So I guess she has severe problems with inflammation. Perhaps she has celiac disease. You guys tell me in the comments. Is that a thing? If you eat bread, can that cause rheumatoid arthritis if you have celiac disease? I don't really know, guys. It's not really my area of expertise. All right, let's continue.
3 steaks a day. That's it.
Yeah. I would change it. I would change it if I could, but as soon as I add anything back in, like there's still some underlying crazy autoimmune problems. Anytime I add anything back in, I
Do you
get
have no
arthritis.
vegetables or anything? You just
Nope.
nothing, just the steak.
Yeah.
Do you have any sauce?
No.
I mean, it's kind of fascinating.
She has a terrible, boring diet that sounds lovely, but is actually... She's basically eating the worst kind of... diet is the right word. It's a medical diet. She's literally only on that. That's kind of unreal.
Fascinating. How long have you done this? 6 years?
Yeah. 6 years in December.
You look like you're bursting with good health. I mean, what do the experts say about this?
Depends on the experts, but mostly, you know,
You're
you should
crazy.
have died by now is usually the reaction I get.
But do you oddly feel healthier than you've ever felt?
Oh my gosh. As a teenager, I told you, I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And
I'll bet she also, eats in a calorie restricted manner, right? Like, it's obvious that she doesn't just, like, it's not like she's eating 6 steaks a day, so she's, 6 steaks and a beer. She's probably eating, like, 1 piece of steak per day cut into 3 pieces, and that's it. Probably, right? To maintain her, her body fat percentage.
and I had my hip and ankle replaced. I couldn't walk. So, I mean, my baseline was nearly dead.
Right.
So compared to that, I feel great.
That's
I'm not
crazy.
depressed
Do you
anymore.
like steak, or are you now sick of it?
If I had to live off of only one food, it would be New York strip loin. So at least there's that, right?
And if you go to a restaurant, you just have steak,
Yeah, just with salt.
just with salt.
Just with salt,
That's
yeah.
it.
I mean, I love a steak with salt, but 3
There you
times
go.
a day, every day, 7 days a week.
The
Yeah.
alternative is worse.
You'd get bored. It's true. Yeah, it's really funny what she's saying. But I mean, again, for her, these are extraordinary circumstances, right? Like, that's insane to me. That I'm curious actually to read about the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. Rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. Let's go to this Mayo Clinic website. Why not? Chronic inflammatory disorder that can affect more than just your joints. It can damage a wide variety of body systems. An autoimmune disorder. It occurs when your immune system mistakenly attacks your own body's tissues. Unlike the wear and tear damage of osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis affects the lining of your joints. Yup, which is why she had a replacement. Yup, causing a painful swelling that can eventually result in bone erosion and joint deformity. I mean, you heard she has a hip and, knee replacement. The inflammation associated can damage the other parts of the body, while new types of medications, severe things can cause... Okay. Signs and symptoms: tender, warm, swollen joints, joint stiffness. It's worse in the mornings and after inactivity, fatigue, fever, and loss of appetite. Early rheumatoid arthritis tends to affect your smaller joints first. As the disease progresses, they spread to the wrists, knees, ankles, elbows, hips, and shoulders. In most cases, symptoms occur in the same joints on both sides of your body. But 40% of people experience symptoms that don't involve the joints. Skin, eyes, lungs, heart, kidneys, salivary glands, nerve tissue, bone marrow, blood vessels. Holy Lord. Periods of increased disease are called flares. Okay. Normally, your immune system helps your body, protects your body from infection and disease. In rheumatoid arthritis, your immune system attacks healthy tissues in your joints. Doctors don't know what starts this process, although a genetic component appears likely. Where your genes don't actually cause arthritis, they can make you more likely react to environmental factors. Women are more likely than men to develop it. It can occur at any age, but usually it begins in middle age. So she was... Okay, complication increases your risk of a bunch of things. Abnormal body composition, fat to lean mass is higher. Even in those with normal BMI. Carpal tunnel. Lymphoma. Okay. There you go. Crazy.
So that's why.
Do you drink alcohol?
I do sometimes.
You can have a nice glass of
That
wine
puts
with
a
it.
bit of a skew on the diet, because they're like, oh, you can only eat meat, but you can have some vodka. But vodka doesn't seem to give me arthritis. So
Funny
yeah.
enough,
That's actually insane.
Bear Grylls, the explorer, he tried veganism for a while, then renounced it all, now feels ashamed by it, and he's gone pretty well full on meat as well, I noticed.
Meat and vodka?
Probably.
That's actually crazy. But by the way, guys, alcohol is basically sugar, right? So when you're drinking alcohol, it's not very different in chemical composition to sugar. It's ethanol, right? So sugar is glucose, C6H12O6, it's like a, you know, kind of a molecule that looks like a hexagon, like a beehive kind of, and it's got, you know, alcohol groups in there, right? And ethanol is similar. I mean, it doesn't have a hexagonal structure. It's basically like a straight line with an alcohol group. So, but there you go. They which explains why you get fat when you drink alcohol. It's effectively like you're drinking sugar, like you're drinking a fizzy drink. It's not very different. I mean, actually, glucose is a bigger molecule, but I digress. Okay, let's continue.
You'd have to, given the things that he does.
Yeah.
So that's the story, and that's what really electrified people's interest in you. But since then, your opinions have also become things that people are following.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
How would you categorize yourself in terms of your position, for example, on things like masculinity? Where do you sit with that? Because I know what your dad does. I've interviewed him, obviously.
I don't think I'm quite as conservative as my dad, but I'm pretty conservative compared to
I'll say.
the average person.
See my video, Mikhaila Peterson divorced. What a surprise. For extra information.
This whole trans debacle is really pushing me into, I don't know what, like a form of feminism or something. Just like, it's so insane that
Yes.
I feel like I need to protect women, even though it's basically women causing this. But I don't know, view on masculinity. I think men are having a harder time, which is why people like Andrew Tate popped up.
That's for sure.
And people like my dad.
Yeah. And there's no doubt, I mean, when I walk around, having interviewed both Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate, the number of young boys, like late teens, early 20s, that come up to me about those interviews, months and months, sometimes a year later, and wanting to talk about them, really curious what I thought of them and what I feel about that. It showed me there's a lot of young men who are wandering around
Directionless. Yes, in 2023, of course.
kind of aimlessly,
Yep.
wanting direction. And they feel...
In fact, that has always been the case. It's just before they used to have a good direction to go in. And nowadays, in 2023, that isn't the case at all. Nowadays, you know, young boys are told, just be yourself, and then they get destroyed. And the only men, like boys that are successful, that become, you know, successful men, literally ignore the common cultural narrative. So, it's a disaster right now.
With your dad and with Andrew Tate and these others, that they feel like at least somebody is trying to understand them and to guide them.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm so incredibly grateful for my dad. I don't know if I would have been able to figure out my health problems if I hadn't had him as a father, because he basically told me I needed to fix my life. I couldn't use my health as an excuse, even though it was a legitimate excuse. And I think...
Wow. It's almost like having a real father causes... Look. Okay, she is divorced and she is a single mother and she remarried and her family situation is a disaster. Despite her parents being together for years and years. But anyway, having a father in the home led to a daughter that looks like this and takes care of herself like this and has this thinking pattern. Guys, Jordan said it himself. The biggest predictor of a child's lack of success is a lack of a father in the home. That's the greatest predictor of bad outcomes for boys. And I think for girls too. Basically, they say a father keeps a woman, like a girl, off the pole, and a boy out of jail. That's the adage. That's the expression. So keep that in mind, guys. All right, let's continue.
I think people aren't told how to make plans with their lives. Like, hey, what's the goal you want to achieve? What are the steps you need to follow in order to get there? Just something as simple as that. And so I know people like my dad tell people how to do that, and it changes their lives, because there they go. They have a plan, and then it works out.
Why are so many young people anxious? What is this anxiety?
Because a man or a boy, but by extension a man, you can't live your life without goals, without dreams, without aspirations, without working towards something. You can't live like that. If you try, all that happens is misery. You're not just going to be okay. You're going to be miserable, and by extension, not just miserable, but miserable and alone. So, men need... a man is his mission. So, there you go.
Anxiety epidemic about, do you think? Is it dopamine from the constant sensory overload of stuff they see on their phones, or what is it?
I'll bet that's part of it too.
Well, I think it's multifaceted. I mean, the political atmosphere is a disaster. What
Disaster.
you're being taught in school is a disaster. So
I mean,
social media seems to be a disaster, so that's got to play a role.
Yep.
And then there's no gender anymore for any of these kids in school. That's got to be mentally confusing. And then I think there's a health crisis in America. I think I was one of the people that got hit by that, so I know that the health crisis is impacting people's mental
Probably
health as well.
exacerbated by the COVID pandemic.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It separated people.
Yep.
It created a lot of loneliness. A lot of people. It made it worse, right?
Yeah,
Of course.
definitely.
Without a
COVID
doubt.
was a disaster, especially in Toronto. Massive problems there.
Right, but do young people also, have they developed a kind of inability to deal with normal life stuff? I mean, I sense that there is a problem there. Just getting through day-to-day normal life.
Well, again, a human being that's less developed because they've spent 2 years stunted at home doing nothing effectively is not going to be as good as a person that's gone through normal development, right, in our society. So of course, this is without a doubt. It'll take some years for people to bounce back in resilience, as it were. That's for sure.
Life. A lot of young people are struggling. Why?
I don't think that they think they have control over anything. I don't think
That's also true.
they're taught in school that they don't have control over the government, they don't have control over their lives. So if they're dealt a bad hand of cards, then there's nothing they can do about it, and then they get resentful and hopeless, which is why people like my dad, I think, have gotten famous, because it's like, no, you do have the power to change your life. You just need to make a plan, and you have to stick to that plan. You have to work on it. So I think it's people feeling lack of control over their destiny.
That's for sure.
Your dad got emotional with me. He cried quite openly, talking about the lost men, really, of our generation.
Yup.
Is he very emotional at home when you?
I feel awful for the boys of this generation as well. I mean, people that have gone through a developmental period during the, I'm not going to mention it because of YouTube laws, but you know what I'm talking about. I feel horrible for them. And ultimately, my channel is for you guys to work on yourselves and to improve your lives. Effectively, what I do is I just put news stories on, right? I just choose different videos that have a common theme, and I talk back against the things that are lies. That's all I really do, right? And the point is to help you to learn what are the lies so you can pick them out yourself, so you can have more control of your life. That's what I'm really doing. I'm not doing anything crazy. And you guys are totally capable of achieving what you like, but it requires a lot of work, consistent, long-term effort. Okay, let's continue.
He is exactly the same person
Yeah, I
on
imagine that.
camera as he is at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it must
exactly
be-
the same.
I mean, it must be, in a way, it must be quite exhausting, but also incredibly intellectually stimulating to be around someone like him.
Yeah.
Genius. Yup, that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, we got taught about the psychological significance of the Bible when I was like 7. So that
There
was
you
like
go.
dinner table talk. I had no idea that my dad was weird until I was like 24.
You see,
He's not weird. I mean, okay. If you're defining weird as not normal, because he's super normal because of his high intellect, then you would be correct. That is true. He is not normal. But weird is a rude way of attacking your own father. I disagree. Don't attack your father like that.
until I met him, I thought he was maybe weird or very controversial or whatever. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to meet. And when I met him, I didn't think any of those things. I thought he was unbelievably bright.
Exactly.
He really thought through these issues.
Yup.
He'd obviously been massively misunderstood or deliberately mischaracterized.
That's for sure.
And I came away thinking he's a force for good if people actually listen to what he says.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
If they listen to what he says.
Yeah.
But people like sound bites. They're so much easier to digest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Peterson clan then, what is life like now? I mean, you've come through this maelstrom of years of chaos and attention and fame and so on. Where have you washed up?
We're still kind of in the middle of it, but I think we're more emotionally resilient. So when articles used to come out about my dad, they used to hit him really hard. Like a New York Times
Oh, you got used to it. Okay.
article would come out.
You get used to anything, I guess.
Somebody would come into our house, pretend to be all friendly, and then boom, this negative article. That was really hard. Every single time that happened, it was a catastrophe. And now we're not phased at all. He's not phased at all. So we've gotten used to it that way. But I don't think the controversy stopped. Like, where there's definitely more people. This is
When you're popular, you will always have people that hate on you, that dislike you. You will always have that. So there's nothing you can do to stop people from disliking you. So there's no point in focusing any of your energy on that. People will dislike you no matter what you do. Whether you do good or whether you do bad, people will always hate. The more successful you become, the more hate. So ultimately, that's just how the world works.
This is one thing that's weird that happens when you have money, is people come after you. I didn't realize, I'd heard about that, but I didn't realize that happened. So we're dealing with that in like 4 different ways.
You mentioned politics earlier. I mean, what are your politics? Who are you going to vote for? Obviously, are you still Canadian citizen? Or?
Yeah, so
Right,
I
so you
can't
don't even
vote here.
well, you wouldn't vote for Trudeau, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
And he's the
Canada
king
is so
woke, right?
screwed. Yeah, no, I moved out of Canada. I moved out of Canada in 2021 because the downtown Toronto had been destroyed, and I thought there's no way this isn't getting significantly worse. And it is worse. I'm back this summer. It's much worse. So yeah, Trudeau's definitely no. Canada's screwed, I think, for the next 10 years.
What do you think of the likes of Meghan and Harry, who position themselves as the priest and high priestess of wokery?
Oh, I have never heard of this. We should maybe we should do a video on them. I had not heard this.
I pretty much ignore those two. What do I think of them? I don't think they're particularly bright, and they're very
Sounds to me like Meghan just took Harry for a ride, and now Harry is just doing whatever Meghan says. Sounds to me like he's a puppet. He sounds like a weak man to me. It just... Okay, so what is it, Meghan and Harry? I'm writing it down, guys. I had no idea. Okay, we'll look into that, guys. We'll expect that in the role at some point.
famous. And so...
And hugely privileged whilst moaning about their lives all the time.
Indeed.
I don't
Yeah.
think it ever flies with the
Yeah.
regular public, right?
Yeah, precisely.
What are the things, when you get up in the morning and you've had your steak, and I'm looking forward to your next steak, when you get up there, what are the things that really exercise you? What do you care most passionately about?
Well, my dad...
Myself.
Dad and I, and we have a team. Well, we've been working on a project called Peterson Academy, which is launching in November. I think that's probably my passion right now.
And what's it really, at its essence, what's it about?
Well, I went to university. I took 4 years. I took 2 half degrees, and it was woke in 2012.
Disaster.
And so I was paying for courses that were taught through a feminist perspective, and it really pissed me off. And I know that the average university degree now in America costs students between $100,000 and $200,000. And it teaches them to hate their country, that they have no control over their lives, and doesn't set them up for jobs.
Yep. That describes things perfectly.
And so we thought, hey, we have access to the top professors across the world. Let's grab those. Let's film really high quality, like Netflix-like lectures, and let's give people access to a degree for $30 a month. Just flatten the education system. So we're hoping to reduce the price of a university degree by offering a general education degree that teaches people how to think and how to have intellectual conversations with anybody. So like history, politics. We even have a course on like how to dress well, to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Just something that I hope everybody can access. And
As you do, as your dad does,
Thank
right?
you.
He's always immaculate as well.
I learned from the best.
You look smart, you dress smart, I think you behave smart, I think.
Indeed. I can't argue with that. The only thing I can argue with is her, her choices. Basically, she works for her dad. If her dad wasn't rich, she'd be a disaster. We already know this. Like, luckily, she has a father that isn't trash. And she's made some bad decisions, but they're not all bad decisions, right? But the divorce thing was a bad decision. And the thing that she did with a kid, also a bad decision. Again, people can do things that are good and things that are bad at the same time. So, that's where I stand on that. Alright, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all for notifications, drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian R, Tom M, and Bobby. Shoutouts to you, most recent Patreon subscriber. Go buy my books at bit.ly/heliosblog. Shoutouts to Curry Kid, most recent purchaser of Strategist Guide to Seduction. Thank you. You can subscribe to my Patreon on patreon.com/theheliosblog. I already said it. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.